All right.
And we are live on the air. What's up, everybody? The Crab Gamer here with you as always. And I'm doing this kind of impromptu podcast, and I am with Jez from XboxMad.net. And that is a Xbox centered. What do you guys do there?
All things Xbox and general, and we also cover some big news from the wider Microsoft ecosystem. Like an Xbox game launches on Windows Phone or Windows 8, we cover that too. If Microsoft announces new surfaces, we cover that as well. But it is very much gaming and Xbox centric, as you
Yeah, I
said.
was. You guys actually, you invited me to write on that for your page actually, and man,
Yes.
it's like I actually still want to, but it's like I get so busy sometimes. You know what I mean? Like I like
No,
the idea, but I also think that maybe I'd bring maybe an unwanted level of hate because I used to write for this site called Gamer Exchange, which was a good site, and the guy that ran it was actually he's a PlayStation fan, not a fanboy, but he just prefers PlayStation, which is fine, and he needed somebody to cover Xbox, and I did that, um, and it's just that the level of hate that anything that I would do just would get far beyond what I expected. So I was like, well, it takes me a long time to write a story, whereas I can do a video and put that up, and it realistically only takes me about 15, 20 minutes to do that. So to
mm,
actually write something and then edit it and make sure everything's proper pronunciation and grammar and pictures and all this stuff, it's like, man, so I definitely understand where you're coming from with that. And what I like about your site is how you guys are fair. You know what I mean? Like you cover Xbox, which is awesome, and it's a good place to go. And I highly suggest it. If you guys are looking for a site that's going to be fair to Microsoft, then that's going to be it. They don't sugarcoat stuff at this site, but they are fair. Like they're honest about what's going on, and they do their research, which is the reason why I use your guys' site like 95% of the time for gaming news. It's got
much
that cool.
appreciated.
Yeah, and it's got that cool green look to it, which feels like home. Like my Xbox One is got the green stuff on it. You know what I'm saying? I like that color. Like I
It's a
think it
nice
works
colour.
good. And one thing that I want to let everybody know is that you were actually at Gamescom, and you got to see actually a lot more Quantum Break than what the public saw. So tell us a
hmm
little bit about that, and what did you think about it? First of all, there was a little bit of rumors that Quantum Break was running on PC. Now, when you did your behind-the-scenes look at Quantum Break, what was that running on?
It was definitely 100% running on Xbox. I could see the Xbox. I mean, I got to put this into perspective here. I was looking at it with my naked eye and thought, what? How are these graphics possible on Xbox One? And I actually went out my way to look if there was an Xbox there. And not only that, but he was using a Xbox One controller to control it with. And I don't think there's official drivers for Xbox One pads on PC yet.
Yeah,
Are
I
there
don't.
so?
They might have, but they probably wouldn't have like a behind the closed doors situation. They probably wouldn't have used,
I
uh,
can't see
you
them
know,
using third-party drivers. I mean, they could have just, if it was running on PC, they could have just used a 360 pad. And if it was the whole point of it was to, you know, hype hype it up and that. I mean, they'd be stupid to overhype the graphics with the backlash from the Watch Dogs downgrade debacle thing. I highly doubt it was running on anything other than Xbox. If it wasn't running on Xbox, that is some cloak and dagger shit
yeah.
they're pulling there.
Well, I mean, you see that sometimes, like, like at E3, we saw Sony, they were running that Batman game off high-end PC, and I did a video on it. And I actually brought it up. I understand that, like, before the consoles were ready, why you do that a bit. But the thing is, to me, even if Microsoft does, it's a little bit false advertising because the games never look as good. They're still going to look good, but obviously, if you're going to compare them to these PC rigs that they run, it's not going to look as good. And I think that that's kind of unfortunate. So I'm not really a fan of them. Just show me what the game's going to look like. Like, okay, when you see The Witcher 3 at E3, that's running on Xbox One. Yeah, there was a couple frame rate issues, forgivable because they were a year away from releasing the game anyway. You know what I mean? But at least you see what it looks like on the console. So I think that that's much better, and it seems much more genuine to me when you see those kind of things. What do you think about that?
Definitely. I mean, there's a difference between watching it HD on YouTube and seeing it running live from the hardware natively. Um, I've just googled now. I mean, rather, I binged it. Uh,
You sound like me. One time I says, "Hey man," I was like, "I'm not Bing," and they're like, "What?" So, yeah, like I got my Windows Phone and stuff too, man. Like I'm a big
yeah,
Microsoft guy, so it's like they make
um,
quality stuff. You know what can I say?
they
I've been
do.
happy with
They
them
definitely
since
do.
man, since my first computer when I was running Windows, and I've been happy with it. It's super simple. I'm like not the most technical person, so it was like Vista I had problems with because I don't think that was as user friendly. And I remember needing to get my brother's
Yeah.
help a lot, who because he worked with PC and PC tech and stuff. So I remember, and then I was so thankful, man, because like Windows 7 just like is so easy. You know, it was so simple. I was like really easy to use stuff, and I really enjoyed it. And then the Windows Phone, that was my first foray into a smartphone, and man, that thing's just really easy to use. It's amazing. I really like it. So,
Yeah.
and I got my
The whole ecosystem's really exciting.
yeah. I mean, what do
Yeah.
you say to people that maybe think Microsoft should do like a handheld console? Because I always say that'd be a big mistake because Nintendo owns that, and then with the phones and tablets, there's not really room for anything not called a Nintendo. You know what I mean? What do you think about that?
I totally agree. I mean, the handheld market is being completely decimated by smartphones as it is. So Microsoft would have to be completely brain dead to release a dedicated handheld.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
mean, they would lose so much money on that endeavor.
I mean, you can see like maybe they could release a large screen Windows phone with a quad core processor and maybe running an NVIDIA Tegra mobile chip that was marketed as a gaming phone, but I don't. I don't think there's room in people's pockets for more than one device. I mean, I'm not a fan of Nintendo anyway, but obviously there is a place for Nintendo games in the world. But the average consumer isn't going to want to carry around loads of different little devices in their pocket. I mean, it makes perfect sense if they're going to do a handheld that they do it through Windows Phone platform, but it remains to be seen.
Yeah, because you know what, like if you're a console gamer, you're gonna want to game on your console, and if you're on the go, you might only have a few minutes here and there to play, so you're not gonna want, this big drawn out game. And if it is gonna be a big drawn out game, you'd probably rather do it on the console. Like I always thought years ago that hey, I would love to play a Halo on the go or Gears on the go, and if they could really focus on Xbox Live, it'd be cool. And you would probably get a good cult following on that, and like some hardcore gamers would be into that. But at the end of the day, it wouldn't be worth it. And then you stretch yourself thin, and then you see what's going to happen, like what's happening with Sony, where they can't support both a new handheld and a
No.
new console at the same time.
I mean, even like the Sony, the Sony-centric websites declared the PS Vita dead. I actually own a PS Vita, and it's quite impressive piece of hardware. But again, I wouldn't carry it around with me. And if the games were that high quality and that immersive, I want them on my TV anyway. So
Yeah.
I think these devices are they should be companion devices, but they shouldn't be centric. But you can still get decent gaming on a smartphone. I mean, Windows Phone doesn't have that many of the big name games, but uh, more recently, developers are taking it more seriously. Like the Witcher MOBA game that they're developing for mobile devices only is launching on iOS, Android, and Windows Phone simultaneously. GTA
Yeah.
San Andreas came out on Windows Phone very very soon after the iOS and Android. So I don't think I don't think Xbox gamers really care about handheld gaming that much.
Yeah, you know what I mean. I play them. Like I like. There's this game on there called Six Guns that works pretty well. That
Yeah,
looks
I've
pretty
played
good.
that.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, I like that, and I play like some of the other stuff. Like EA has some things on there, and like there's a Tetris game on there and things like that. And if I have
Yeah,
like 5-10 minutes to kill, I'll use those games. You know what I mean? Uh,
yeah.
but for the most part,
As
yeah, I agree.
it's companion gaming. It's not hardcore gaming.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. I mean, you know what though? I'd be kind of pissed off if I were like somebody that spent like how much was the Vita at launch? Like one version was like 299, you
yeah.
know, and then you have Sony come out and say, hey, well, we're not going to actually support this thing with AAA titles anymore. It's more of a companion thing for your PS4. So it's like, okay, so you get a PS4 and you spend
I
400
wouldn't be
bucks on
happy
that.
about that.
Yeah, and now they want you to get this other thing to do basically what the Wii U got kind of does, the whole principle that everybody bashed it for anyway. And I know you're not a
Mm.
Nintendo fan, but I like it for what it is, but it's definitely not on the same level as like an Xbox One.
Mm.
But just kind of slightly going back to Gamescom, what was your favorite games that you saw if you had to like pick a few?
Well, I did just want to, I do want to talk up Quantum Break a bit more first. Um,
Okay, because that's
so,
one that like blew me away. Like the Tomb Raider announcement got all the hype, but the thing that actually impressed me was the Quantum Break demo. So yeah, I'm all about that. So let me know what you thought, what you saw.
yeah. Well, first of all, I want to put complete, you know, I want to draw a line under the rumours it was running on PC. It definitely wasn't. The PC drivers are available for Xbox One controller, but they require USB cable to be plugged in. The guy was controlling it wirelessly with a USB
Okay.
cable, without a USB cable, sorry. So it was definitely running on the Xbox One, um, which at the time completely blew me away because the graphics were better than Rise,
Oh
frankly.
wow. Yeah. Now, did they mention anything about? Obviously, I'm kind of surprised that I haven't seen anything about the resolution or frames per second. Usually Digital Foundry's all over these things, and they haven't done anything yet that I've seen. Did they mention maybe what they're going to go for? Is probably more of a cinematic game, so I would assume 30 frames per second. Um,
Um, it's definitely 30 frames per second. I used to be an animator, so I can sort of tell that with the naked eye. It is 30 frames per second. I couldn't comment on the resolution, um, but it doesn't matter to me. I mean, if you get sometimes resolution can be to the detriment of a game, especially in a game like Quantum Break, where you know,
the
well,
devil's in
actually,
the details. Yeah, you
yeah,
want a highly detailed
time
game.
time is freezing a lot in Quantum Break. So this forms the basis of what blew me away about the graphics. Um, I mean, this is without talking about gameplay or anything. And I'm not a big graphics guy. I mean, I've been playing my 360 happily for like the past few weeks. I've been replaying Dragon Age over and over again, ready for
Yeah, yeah,
Inquisition.
getting ready for the new one. Yeah.
And but the graphics really did. It was like this is next gen, and it wasn't just the level of detail which was incredible, because like I mentioned in my write up on Xbox Mad that because you're slowing down time, they have to really outfit every little asset with tons of detail. Like in the demo I saw, that I'm not sure if it's been released to the public yet. Um, Basically, the tanker from the original reveal at E3, that was in-game graphics,
Yeah.
which
Wow.
again blew my mind.
Yeah.
And the tanker slams into the bridge, and that's gameplay. So you have to climb through the bridge as time's collapsing around you, slowing down, speeding up, reversing, looping around. You have to use your powers to avoid rocks that are flying backwards and forwards, and cars that are exploding and imploding. It's just it was so intense to watch. And, I wasn't even playing it, but it was really intense seeing all these just mental time effects, pockets of time flying all over the place, like climbing over little chunks of rock and road signs that had laid out a path through the debris suspended in space time. It was just crazy. And because of the time being frozen, they have to render each individual thing to a high level of detail. Like there's a bit where he's walking through this bridge and he has to push a Coke can out of the way. Now in other games, a Coke can on the floor, they might just you know rub it over with high texture compression and just make it like a pink blur, like mix all the colours together of a Coke label and just leave it on the ground as a pink blur, because who's going to look at a Coke can? But when it's like frozen in time in front of you, it's kind of more important.
Yeah.
So like even like little chunks of rock and blades of glass were like all dynamic shadows and lighting, and the lighting through the smoke was amazing. Like I can't gush enough about the graphics of this game. It was better than Rise, not just because of the level of detail, but the anti-aliasing was really surprisingly smooth. I mean, I think anti-aliasing is like, it's not something that features that heavily on console because it does use a lot of resources. I
Yeah.
mean, if you've got a PC game and you need to run it on lower end hardware, one of the go-to things is to lower the quality of the anti-aliasing. Well, this Quantum Break looks smooth as anything. I mean,
Yeah. I mean,
Rise
that's one of the
can.
things like a lot of people don't understand is like there's this whole resolution thing which I'm just really sick of. What
Oh,
people don't
yeah, me
understand
too.
is you get that whole 1080p thing and it takes away the ability to do some of those anti-aliasing. And then when you look at the best games, the best looking games, or supposedly or whatever, if you look at like on the PlayStation side, they say okay, the order is going to be really set the bar for next generation graphics, but they use the black bars and it cuts it down to about 800p, which allows you to do more anti-aliasing because you're not having to make up something that's going to take up the whole
Yeah.
screen, right? So of
So that's
course
not a
it's going to be
bad
able to
thing.
look
It's a
better.
smart thing.
Yeah,
A smart thing.
it's
Next
a
gen
yeah,
graphics won't be 1080p. They'll be 900p or less with lots of anti-aliasing, lots of special effects, lots of dynamic lighting and shadows. They're not all going to be 1080p because a crisper, higher resolution means you're going to see the cracks. You're going to see the seams where the developers, what might be blurred in a realistic sort of focus blur sort of way on a 900p scene would look all sharp on a 1080p scene. So you might see jagged edges that you wouldn't see on 900p version of the same shot. There's so many different factors to creating a scene in a game graphically, and the media is just completely latched onto this 1080p PR buzzword, and
yeah,
it's limited the industry because like the order for example, if they're not going for 1080p so they can ramp up the anti-aliasing or the texture quality, that's a good thing. But
yeah.
fanboys they're gonna flame them for not hitting 1080p, and as you know, you see things like people saying Destiny's downgraded on PS4 because Xbox One was managed to get 1080p, and people think like 1080p is the be all and end all of all graphics, like ocular occlusion and bump mapping and
Yeah.
sun shafts and all these
Well,
different graphical
well, you
aspects.
know
It
what
all
was funny
boils down to 1080p. It's bullshit.
About Destiny was when it was announced that it would be 1080p on Xbox One. People were like, "Well, what's it going to be on PS4? Are they going to up it to 60 frames per second?" They just assumed that since they could do that resolution on Xbox One, that they must be able to do far and above that. From a standpoint of hardware on the PS4 platform. And what we're seeing now, they're starting to come out. Like I don't know if you've seen it. Like somebody kind of busted Sony in one of their lies recently about how many something or other the PS4 can do. It was like Sony was saying it was like 170, uh, whatever it is, and it turns out it's only like 125. I'm going to do a video on it. I have to look into it a little bit more before I do a video because I don't like to just spout off about stuff. But it's like a lot of times there's a perception, and maybe this is why you were impressed so much with Quantum Break, because there's a perception that the Xbox One is underpowered or that it's weak and it's not capable of good graphics, right? Like people are surprised when games look that good. Like I know people that are like, "Hey, I just bought an Xbox One and I got Rise, and that's the best looking game I've ever seen." You know, and I'm like, "Well, what
Yeah,
did you expect? I've been telling you guys this. Like YouTube doesn't do these games justice. You know, you got it
yeah.
because it's so compressed and everything."
YouTube really doesn't do these games justice. I mean, I saw a lot of games at Gamescom, and they were all running on the same LG screens. Like I noticed like every TV, with the exception of Dragon Age Inquisition, which was projected on a wall, which is an awful way to showcase the
Yeah.
graphics. But besides that, everything was running on LG TVs, especially the smaller sort of the live gameplay sessions, I should say, were all running on these LG screens. And I'm not into PlayStation at all. So I don't really check out what's going on PlayStation. So for me, it wasn't a case of I'm surprised that Xbox One can put out these graphics, because I don't have any PlayStation 4 knowledge to compare it to. I was comparing it to Rise, which I know won like awards for graphical fidelity and all that
Yeah,
sort of thing.
it just won like an award for having the best real-time in-game graphics. So I think that
Yeah,
that's impressive. And if you look at like the whole argument for resolution, that's a perfect one, because originally they had the game at 1080p and things look kind of plastic and fake.
yeah,
And there wasn't as
exactly.
much detail, and then they lowered it down just slightly, and you get, the 900p, and then you get like the cracks in the skin, and you know what I'm saying. I just think
Yeah.
the detail is so much
It's
higher. So I
holding the industry
really,
back.
yeah,
It's honestly, it's holding the industry back. Like the fear of 1080 game not being 1080p on one system and another. It's holding the industry back, especially for like multi-platform developers. It does seem to be harder for games to hit 1080p on Xbox One, but it doesn't matter. The operating system's a lot more complicated because you can do more with it,
yeah.
and that's for me. That's a
That's what
worthwhile
I signed up for when I got
108.
one. Yeah, like
Exactly.
I
And
like it. It's like, man, I want to be able to, snap my achievements real time. If I'm having a problem with something,
exactly.
I don't got to break out a laptop or anything like that. I can just snap YouTube, get the walkthrough, and see exactly and compare it right to the screen I'm on, and do it that way. I enjoy. I control everything. I'm in my room and I'm like Xbox on, Xbox
Yeah.
off, volume on, volume up, volume down. I like that. It feels very next generation to me. And I don't know, you're definitely probably in the preview program, but have you taken the surveys that just came out on that?
No, I haven't.
Okay, there's surveys in there about Upload Studio, and if that has anything to go on, they're going to do some massive overhaul improvements on there. They're talking about offering green screen effects on there, like you can have stuff like when you use your Kinect and edit and stuff like that. I mean, that was one of the
I've heard about
options.
that before. Yeah.
Yeah, they have longer record that times, longer overall game clip times, the ability to put your clips on a USB drive so you can like just put them on your computer or whatever.
Mm.
I would actually like that because it takes me, I don't have a great upload speed. So when I do certain things, it takes me forever to do the 5-minute clips or whatever. So if you could do 10-minute clips and I could save that to a USB drive and just put that on my computer real fast, I'd be making so many more videos. You know what I mean? Like I have like capture devices and stuff, but it's all a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
It's
We
like
could talk
I like the
about we could talk
simplicity of
about that
doing it.
forever. I mean, there's so much. That's the thing about the Xbox One. There's so much to talk about. We just keep getting off topic because
Yeah,
there's
and
so
like
much
this
to
is
look
supposed to be
forward to.
about
And so much to be
Gamescom.
excited. Yeah. There's so much to look
Yeah.
forward to. So much to be excited about, and I gush about Xbox all the time. I'm really excited about what Microsoft are offering, and just going back to Gamescom again. um,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, okay,
does
so
seem
so so
that.
you really like you like Quantum
Sorry.
Break, and the guy was playing with a wireless controller, which means it was obviously an Xbox One. So we've
Yeah.
dispelled that myth that anybody was like trying, because people were trying to tell me that when I did a video saying that was the most impressive game shown at Gamescom. But if you look at all the games shown at Gamescom, I didn't see a single one that was as impressive as that demo that I saw, and I was just like, wow, you know what I mean, just blown away by it.
Yeah.
And let me ask you this, because I ask a lot of Xbox fans this: if there was a studio that Microsoft would buy, would you suggest Remedy?
What is the deal with Remedy? Have they just got like a multi-title deal like they had with Bungie, sort of
Well,
thing?
actually, Microsoft owns the Quantum Break IP. Remedy owns the Alan Wake IP. They're a brilliant developer. You know what I mean? With Microsoft backing them, because I guess that this is quite an expensive endeavor, Quantum Break.
Oh,
From
definitely.
what everything I've heard, yeah. So Microsoft is probably one of probably the only company that would back this type of thing. Um, So I think that they have a good partnership in that aspect. That Microsoft probably opens up the pocketbook and says, "What do you need?" You know what I mean, and they get it. So, but it's like I always felt that if Microsoft should have bought one studio before, it should have been BioWare. Because
Mm,
as somebody that was with the original Xbox since the beginning, I KOTOR, Jade Empire, the first, Dragon Age, Mass Effect. I'm a big BioWare fan, and just imagine what those franchises would be like if they were just exclusive. So I thought that that was like
again,
a bit
it's
of a
Don
missed
Matrick, isn't it?
opportunity. Yeah, Don Matrick most likely. And then it was like, you know, the Killer Instinct thing. That company that made that for the Xbox One were bought out by Amazon. That was like another one of those things where I was like, missed opportunity. But they were kind of an up and coming uh, group or whatever, so that's understandable. But Remedy seems like they really are like in a class of their own. Like I think Microsoft has a lot of good first party studios, but I feel like Remedy is like one of those smaller studios that would really benefit from having Microsoft's pocketbook and what I'm saying, being able to do kind of what they want. And I don't want to see, I want to see a sequel to Alan Wake down the line. You know what I mean? And I want to make sure that it's going to stay on Xbox. Like I don't particularly care. Like a lot of people think I'm crazy when I'm saying, well, I don't really care if shit goes to PC, because that, to me, that's not. I'm a console gamer, so that makes no difference to me whatsoever. And I heard everybody say they were going to get Titanfall on PC, and then it sells like crap, and so nobody did. So I enjoy that hypocrisy, and that people just brag that they would just get it on PC, but they don't. Most people just But that's neither here nor there. But back to Gamescom, yeah, I'm a bit all over the place because it's like it's cool to actually be talking with somebody that was there. Now, did you interact with any of the like higher up people while you were there? Like,
Um, well, I'd say this again. It comes into poor planning comes in. Because obviously I didn't think they'd approve me for a press pass, so I didn't factor it into my budgets, my finances, or my time really. So I could only afford to stay in Cologne for 2 nights. Well, actually no, I could only afford to stay for one night. Well, the other night I slept in the airport, which was rough. That's how
oh,
I
I
could
can
imagine.
imagine. Yeah.
Um, I think I got about an hour and a half sleep. That was horrible. But so I didn't get to like push to speak to as many devs as I would have liked to. At Gamescom itself, there wasn't that many devs available to talk. It was mostly just they gave a presentation to the press, and then we were ushered out the back door, while the next batch of people were queuing up at the entrance. But AC Bongos was gracious enough to invite me to the Xbox briefing after party, because I wasn't able to attend the Xbox briefing because I was flying in the air while it was happening. So there were devs there that I spoke to quite briefly because again I was really pressed for time. I spoke to the dev I spoke to the most was from Lionhead actually about Fable
Hmm.
Legends, which is probably not the best because I've only played Fable 2. I haven't played Fable 1 or Fable 3, so I didn't really know that much about the Fable as a series. But I sort of asked him questions that a consumer might be um, asking Lionhead, um, because of like my perceptions of what Fable Legends is going to be as a consumer. Because obviously, like Xbox Mad isn't my main job. I've got like another job, like
Yeah,
that pays
yeah.
the bills and other responsibilities. So I don't get to research all games as in the depth that I'd like to. Fable Legends is one of them. So I just sort of asked him a few questions based on what my rudimentary consumer perception was of it. And my perceptions of it are that it's basically an RPG evolve, sort of like multiplayer focused, where um, co-op focused, and then PvP with the sort of the villain that can be a playable character. So I asked him to what extent could this be played as a single player game, and he was quite forthcoming with the answers. Um,
Well, is it like this is the problem that I'm having with it, right? Like I'm a huge Fable fan. I have, even the Connect one, I love the story. I maybe didn't like the Connect controls the best, but I thought it was good for what it was. But a lot of they only show the multiplayer stuff right now. You know what I mean? And some people are confused by that. They're like, well, is it? What is it exactly? So did they confirm that it's like an RPG that you can play solo if you want?
yes, that was the first thing I asked him because obviously my perception was that it was basically a multiplayer game. All that I've seen as a casual observer is multiplayer videos where someone's controlling the villain and
They
four
setting
people are playing
traps and
cooperatively.
yeah, which I love
Yeah.
that aspect. Don't get me
Um,
wrong, and I signed up for the beta that starts in October, and I'm excited for that. But as a diehard Fable fan, the RPG part is what really draws me into that game, and is what
yeah.
I'm really most excited about. So it's good to hear, and I know that you have to take three companions with you in the game, whether they
Yeah.
be AI or actual people over Xbox
Yeah.
Live or whatever.
He actually described it like it was Dragon Age. He said if you're playing by yourself, the other characters become AI, and where you can switch between them, I believe. Uh, I mean, that must be the case if you compared it to Dragon Age.
Yeah,
And also the villain can be AI controlled as well. I asked him about customization and equipment and that sort of thing, and he said that there is quite a lot of loot in the game to get because it does have that sort of RPG edge.
yeah,
But obviously each character, it's not you in the game. Like like a lot of these RPGs like Dragon Age or Skyrim or whatever, you play as an allegory for yourself. Like make your own choices and make your character look however you want and that sort of thing. But in this, it's more like The Witcher, I suppose, where you're playing as predefined characters with predefined backstory and a predefined story in general, I think. But
yeah. They
he
have
did
they have
say
announced
there's
the characters like the Rook and things like that, right? Or Rook and
yeah,
which is
that's right.
yeah, that's a departure. Like for me, as a big Fable fan, and from what I've seen so far, and like I've only watched some videos and stuff like that, and people have said the gameplay is great and it looks great, but are people going to be able to get past that Fable stigma of how the old Fable games are with this new one? And maybe they could have got away with calling it a new IP and just changing a couple things or whatever. Um, did you actually get to play the game?
No, I didn't, I'm afraid, but I did watch it being played quite a lot. The graphics are incredible. It's
Yeah, they're
again,
using
it's
real
Unreal
time
4.
lighting. Yeah.
Yeah, it's Unreal 4. The graphics are incredible. One thing that really struck me was the cloth mechanics. Um, I said like because one of the characters had like a big cape, and a lot of games like for example World of Warcraft has long capes, but each cape has a set amount of animation. But this was like fully dynamic cloth using physics or Unreal 4 or
Yeah.
something. And he said like I commented on it and said that the cloth physics just look amazing. He said that they're still fine tuning it, and he said that this is a level of detail that we try to go to in our game development is making sure that the cloth reacts realistically to you know powerful weapon swings and gravity and that sort of thing and shock waves from swinging your weapon, and so it looked gorgeous. I must say. Again, I'm not a massive Fable fan, but I think fans of the series will be happy with the game.
Yeah, I mean, and
Um,
you're British too, so I mean, usually most of the people that I know that are British that are Xbox gamers love Fable, so it's a little bit odd that you don't. Like, I love the humor of the games. I think they're really funny. So, like a lot of people don't, I love them. I think they're awesome.
yeah, I'm very. People always tell me I've got weird tastes. I mean, I'm a massive Xbox fan. I only buy Xbox consoles. I stopped buying PlayStation's PS2 in the PS2 days, and but I'm not a big fan of Halo. I'm not a big fan of Gears of War. I like Alan Wake, but it's not, I wouldn't put it in my top 10 probably.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, what are some of the games that you do like on Xbox?
right, my favorite games. I mean, keeping it Gamescom centric. The best games I saw. I mean, Quantum Break did blow my mind, but
Yeah.
you know, um, my favorite genre is RPG, and it always will be, I think. So the games that I mean, I was shocked by Quantum Break, like how
Yeah.
good it looked, like just the level of detail. It looked like the first truly next gen game I'd seen. I mean, Rise was really close because obviously the graphics are amazing, but for me the gameplay of Rise was very repetitive and
Yeah,
dull. I
you know, I
mean,
mean, for a launch game, I thought that Rise hit a pretty good story with great
oh yeah,
graphics, but
yeah,
the gameplay was a little stale and it was a little short.
yeah.
Where I was hoping that
I
Quantum
think that's
Break
yeah, I think that's
was going to
a
be
problem
everything.
of I think that's the problem of being retro engineered from being a Connect dedicated game. I mean, you got to tip your cap to Crytek for turning a game that was intended to be dedicated for Connect and then reverse engineering it into sort of like a third person slasher. Um, but
Yeah, I mean,
again,
I liked the game. I thought it was good.
yeah, I like the
That was
game.
the first game I played, because you want that when you get a new console, you want that game that impresses the hell out of you. You know what I mean? Graphically.
Definitely.
Yeah, and so I think that was the one that I wanted to do. And then the next game I played was Forza, which was also really good. And I mean, I don't know if you like racing games, but the Forza series,
No.
I didn't really like racing games like that much back in the day. I mean, I like Project Gotham. I thought it was pretty good. I like Gran Turismo back in the earlier days on like PS1 and stuff. But it wasn't until Forza came out that I was like, man, this is fun. And then Forza Horizon came out on the 360, and that mixed the motorsport with the arcade like a hybrid of those two games, and I just thought it was fantastic. So I'm super excited for Horizon 2. Now, did you get to
That's another
actually?
game I didn't get to check out either.
Oh, you didn't. What games
Um,
did you actually check out?
right, the games that I checked out in detail were The Witcher 3, Dragon Age Inquisition. I was like amongst the first people in the world to see the new level they showed.
Yeah.
Um, we queued up and waited for the EA section to open, so like I could jump under the barriers and get to the front of the queue.
and
I went to Gamescom to see Dragon Age Inquisition. I'm
and
a
how was
massive
it?
Dragon
Because
Age
I'm a
fan.
big Dragon Age fan. I have the game. Like I double dipped. I got it on. I got both the Dragon Age games on Xbox 360 and then PS3. Just because I enjoyed the game so much, and But what did you think about it? Did you? I mean, like you like Dragon Age 1 probably better than Dragon Age 2. I'm one of the few people that didn't hate Dragon Age 2. I enjoyed
Well,
it.
I've got a weird relationship with Dragon Age 2. I got Dragon Age 2, and I started playing it, and I absolutely hated it for years because it wasn't Dragon Age. It wasn't the sequel I thought I was getting, and I think my expectations were inflated by how much of an improvement Mass Effect 2 was over Mass Effect 1 in terms of gameplay.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, some people might disagree with me. Like, they stripped out a lot of the RPG elements and focused on it being a shooter, and I thought that made it a lot better. I always played a biotic in Mass Effect, so the using the physics spells was just a ton of fun for me, and I was expecting that jump in quality to hit Dragon Age 2, and it just didn't, and it soured me to the point where I didn't play it again until I saw Inquisition videos, early Inquisition videos, and I thought maybe I should give this game another chance. And like I ended up really enjoying it when I did give it a chance.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do like Dragon Age 2 as well. I'm actually replaying it. The game I'm playing at the minute.
And how is Inquisition? Do you think they've gone more back to a RPG like
I
the first one?
think I think Inquisition is the sequel that I was imagining Dragon Age 2 to be, and more. Um, I think Dragon Age 2 actually does some things better than Dragon Age Origins, because I'd always played a mage in all RPGs that I play, all RPGs. But
Yeah.
I played as a warrior in Origins, and wow, Warrior is bad in Origins. I mean, it's so obvious that the Warrior gameplay was an afterthought in Origins. So like to see the jump in quality of gameplay between Origins and 2 for Warriors was like massive. So, but it was like a little bit too Dragon Ball Z cartoony, swinging this huge sword like Cloud from Final Fantasy VII, you know.
Yeah.
But I think the first thing that struck me in the Inquisition gameplay I saw, which half of it has been released on IGN, I believe. Only half of
Yeah,
it
I
though.
watched some of it, the Mage, where they were showing the Mage gameplay or whatever.
Yeah, the gameplay I saw was a two-handed warrior, female inquisitor, that was released last week on IGN, but only half of it. And
Okay, because I seen some Mage gameplay from Gamescom that looks really good. I mean, and they're playing it on an Xbox One, or at least it has Xbox One
yeah,
prompts.
the demo was running
Um,
on Xbox One.
yeah.
When I saw
So
it.
so I thought it was really cool because we're so that's one of the, at least I'm really happy that Microsoft has that partnership with EA. A lot of people don't like them or whatever, but as far as I'm concerned, like with the EA Access stuff, like I got to play through some games that I didn't even have
I
yet. You know
could
what I'm saying? So
I could discuss the EA thing for like half an hour probably.
I know, right?
Um,
Like it's like it's like, hey, like they try to, like the media, and again, I'm getting off topic a little bit, but they're like, you only get a 6-hour demo time on the new Madden, and I'm like, well, you understand that you get full access to the game for 6 hours. You can just, you know what I'm saying? That's, you can almost get six
yeah,
full games in, whereas the previous demos were limited you
it's
to.
demo 2.0.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
the
Um,
previous Madden demos are two teams. Those are the only two teams you get, are like the Super Bowl teams from the previous year. 2-minute quarters, so you get like an 8-minute game, and you don't have a choice but the Super Bowl teams. You know what I'm saying? This is, you can play as your team, play the game. It's like the full game, and then it carries over. You know what I'm saying? Like that's fantastic to me, and you can get like money off on the digital. Like you can preload the new Madden already, pre-buy it on Xbox One. That came out today that you can
hmm,
actually do that. If you're an EA Access member, I think it's something like $53 to buy it now. Um,
hmm.
so you're getting quite a little bit of savings, because by the time you're factoring tax here, I know where you're at is different, the money thing, but you're looking at like about $64 here by the time you pay tax. So you're saving almost about $10 on it by doing that. So I think that that's interesting. But so did you actually get to play Dragon Age Inquisition, or was that?
No, it wasn't set up as a demo station. Basically, they had like a portable cinema, and um, they showed like a little video introduced by Mike Laidlaw, who's the lead developer, and some other bloke whose name I don't remember. And
Yes, he doesn't matter, he.
yeah, he's not Mike Laidlaw. Um, and they were introducing the game, saying, "We regret we can't attend Gamescom. We're hard at work getting the game ready, but here's our latest gameplay demo." Blah blah blah. And the gameplay demo was set in the Frostbath Mountains, which are the mountain range between the two countries that the game takes place in. Um, we show the first part of the video was explaining a little bit how the game works. So they compared it to the Normandy in Mass Effect, where you have a home base, and basically your character progression stems from that home base, and so you get this place called Skyhole Keep, and it's your base. Um, all the forces you gather to Age Inquisition, they're stationed at Skyhole Keep. You can customize the castle, upgrade the castle, similar to the Normandy, except in this one you can like change things like the stained glass windows, the heraldry, like you choose your own flag,
Oh,
like
wow.
Diablo, um, stuff like that, cosmetic stuff, and then there's like actual stuff like you can set up alchemy labs, um, you can set up a tavern, um, similar to the bar on the Normandy, I guess. It was very Mass Effect in its systems, and most importantly, there's something called the War Table, which is effectively the galaxy map on the Normandy in Mass Effect. So you head to this war table, and quests will pop up on it, and areas will pop up on it, similar to the Mass Effect Galaxy map, with quests on. People have asked me, is this an open world game like Witcher and Skyrim? No, it's not an open world game per se. It's like Dragon Age Origins. Um, you travel to an area, and then you're given this expanse of land where there will be quests, side quests, dungeons, and what have you inside a sort of contained area. That looks beautiful, rendered in on the new latest Frostbite engine. Um, and it was running on Xbox One, but as I said earlier, it was projected onto a wall, so it wasn't the best way
Yeah.
to get an impression of the fidelity of the graphics. But there were some, like, I could get an impression of things like lighting effects were amazing, as you'd expect from a Frostbite game.
Yeah.
Water effects again, amazing. So
I was
you know,
always worried about that when they said they were going to use the Frostbite engine, because so far we'd only seen it really in shooters.
yeah.
So I'm interested to see how it looks with non-shooters, because I hear the new Mass Effect is going to be on Frostbite engine as
Well,
well.
I was also worried because obviously we've only seen Battlefield 4, I believe, running on the latest version of Frostbite, which, in my opinion, doesn't have the most spectacular graphics on Earth. But then again, those maps are gargantuan,
Yeah.
and they have pretty impressive draw distances.
Now, do
Things
you
that
like Battlefield 4?
um, I have I have a mixed opinion about Battlefield 4. I'm still
Okay,
kind of bitter
because
that it was broken for so long,
yeah,
but
like I only just now play it because of EA Access, right? I'm a Call of Duty guy. I own like 8, 9 Call of Duty games. Like I got a collection on 360, and I bought Ghosts on Xbox One and 360. So I'm used to that. Those kind of bland graphics year after year. So when I just played Battlefield 4 for the first time, like last month, I was actually really impressed with the graphics. Because I'm coming
well,
over from Call
the
of
gra-
Duty.
yeah, I mean, for a shooter, they're really good for like a shooter with huge, colossal maps. But I mean, yeah, it's daft stuff like Blades of Grass. Texture quality is very low because
Yeah,
it
yeah,
has to be low because it'd be too laggy, and shooters have to be 60 frames a second. They just have to be. But
yeah.
Dragon Age, well, I couldn't really tell because it wasn't live demo, but I would expect the Dragon Age isn't 60 frames per second. It's probably going for more
Cinematic
cinematic.
feel. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and with that in mind, the graphics were incredible, truly incredible for what I could see anyway.
Yeah, I
There's
mean,
some
like,
HD videos,
what a tactic though. If they are having some problems, they're like, hey, we'll just project it up on the wall. Nobody will be able to tell. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like, yeah. So I think that's cool. So, and you saw The Witcher 3, and like the demos that I've seen of that so far have looked amazing.
yeah.
I love The Witcher 2. I bought that day one on 360 when that came out. I was blown away by it. At first, I thought it started off a little slow, but then when you get into it, I just think, man, this is like, not only that, it's like they're adult, and when I say that, I don't mean just like from like because there's a lot of sex in it. There's just the adult stories in there. You know what I mean? That
Yeah,
like
they have
appeal.
really complicated stories.
Yeah, it's like really kind of
Um,
like makes you think and stuff. It's not one of those just kind of like, okay, well, it's this and save the world. You know what I mean? It was like
yeah,
really
yeah.
good storyline, and I thought that was really well done. So now you saw the demo for this too. Now, how did that look and how did that work?
Well, before I talk about that, I just want to mention, like, for people who are interested in Inquisition, that, I mean, just quickly, um,
Okay,
sorry, but
no, that's
I
fine.
have to get this in. The gameplay. I mean, I talked mostly about the graphics, but I just want to mention about the gameplay because one of the things people were really pissed off about in Dragon Age 2 was that they stripped out the sort of the tactical feel of the game. It became a bit like you sort of run in, button mash, spam your abilities on cooldown and win
Yeah.
in the normal low and the normal and lower difficulties. I mean, obviously, like if you ramp up the difficulty, you do have to like be a bit more careful. But most people play on normal, don't they?
Yeah.
But
Well,
in,
if the achievements aren't that high for switching between them or not a difference at all, I'll play on easy just to experience the damn thing. I'll just like go in there, wipe out everybody just to see the story, man. That's how I am, and like I don't got time to like sit there and retry these stages. That's why I don't like the Dark Souls games because I don't got time to sit there and lose progress for 3 hours and then go back and do that. You know what I mean? Like I work, I got
yeah, I know
all
what
the
you mean.
stuff that I gotta do. So it's like I want to see the story, experience it. Feel like a badass, knock everybody over. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you
Like they're
mean.
cardboard cutouts. So yeah, go ahead.
But yeah, they've put the tactics back into the game. So I mean,
Okay.
they've shown improved videos. Like you can release the camera from its pivot and put it above the map. Control your characters like it's an RTS. Tell people to guard a choke point, like a tank character guard a choke point and stop enemies from attacking your
I hope they
mage and your
allow
rogue.
Connect to use that, man. Like, it was awesome. Like Mass Effect 3, or like I suck at assigning and doing all those complicated things, right? But in Mass Effect 3, you could just tell people to shoot, and a lot of people were like, "Well, that seems stupid." Or in
Yeah,
Skyrim, you could do the shouts and stuff. Like, I love that. You know what I mean? I was like, man, that's like makes it so much easier for me. You know what I'm saying? I'm not real good
yeah,
at doing a bunch of the complicated stuff. Like, so I'm glad that they're going to go back to that. Do you know if they're going to allow you to outfit your companions in that one? Because they kind of took that away in the last one.
yeah. The way it works is obviously it depends on the race. I think if it's like a basic human, that you can outfit them.
Okay.
Sorry, fully, but other companions like, for example, the Iron Bull is like a huge Canary. So I think that there is a lot of armor for him in the game that changes his appearance.
Yeah.
But obviously, I'm not sure if armor intended for a human would fit on his body and if it will be mapped as such. But I do know that you can fully kit people out. But I'm not sure if like the same armor for a human would work on Iron Bull or a dwarf, for example. Um, I expect Varric will be limited to his crossbow because he has like a special crossbow that's his crossbow. So I think there is more customization across the board, but it's
Yeah,
still
yeah, like they kind of took that away in the second one. Obviously, not everything's there's certain armors that could only fit certain people or whatever. But bringing back any kind of customization would
it is
be
rammed with customization.
yeah, that's
Um,
what I'm looking for because I already have that game pre-ordered. You know what I mean? That's just like
yeah, same.
that's a
Isn't
must. Like for me, the Xbox One right now, it's amazing, but I'm going back and playing 360 and doing Dragon Age again too, just to play through it again. You know what I'm saying? Waiting for the new
yeah,
one because I feel like the 360 is missing, or the Xbox One rather is missing that big RPG right now. Actually, both of them are. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. Both of them are missing those big RPG experiences, like like you
definitely.
take for granted. Like probably, and I always tell people this, and you probably feel this way right now too, but maybe not. But I love the Xbox One, and I like where they're going with it. But right now, for me, my favorite console of all time is probably still the 360 because it's got all the games where it came from where it started, and it's just like I still have like probably close to 200 games that I haven't even finished or started on that console.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's like I'm super excited. Do you think that the cross-platform stuff, because it's cross-gen, is going to affect it in any way?
You mean Dragon Age?
Yeah, because Dragon Age is going to be on the 360 as well.
Well, I think this is one of the benefits of using Frostbite. I think Frostbite. I mean, Dragon. I mean, yeah, it will be limited. Sure, it'll be limited on Xbox One. Um, I mean, Quantum
Three.
Break is an example of what
Yeah.
what will happen when games are dedicated for next gen consoles, and the Order as well, for that matter. Um, but obviously, these cross gen games from these third party publishers. They're gonna happen for at least another couple of years, maybe even longer. I mean, the install base on the 360 and PS3, they're too huge to ignore. But in similar fashion to, say, Assassin's Creed 4, I think Dragon Age Inquisition on Xbox One will have more dynamic water effects, more dynamic lighting effects, higher resolution textures, that sort of thing. It's literally like flicking the switch on a PC game, up in the resolution, adding
Yeah.
in higher levels of multi-sampling for smoothing edges and that sort of thing. Um, but yeah, it will be limited. I mean, it's not going to be Quantum Break graphics or Rise graphics, but it doesn't need to be because, as you say,
Yeah, the
we are
first one, you know
missing
what,
that
that looks like.
RPG.
Yeah, the first one looks like poop, but it plays awesome. So you know what I
Exactly.
mean? It's like,
Exactly.
yeah, that was like one of my favorite games. I remember playing that and was just like blown away by it. You know, it's just really fantastic. I'm super excited for it. You know, I was just curious what your thoughts were on that. And now, since you're such a Dragon Age fan, are you going to do the dreaded double dip possibly, where you beat it on Xbox One and then say a few months down the line you see it on sale on 360? You know, are you going to pick it up on
Nah,
360?
nah,
And
nah.
no,
Don't do that. I
no.
don't do that, and especially not on this because of Dragon Age Keep. Have you heard of that?
No. What is that?
Dragon Age Keep is a website and possibly an app where you can upload all of your save data from previous playthroughs of Dragon Age. So
Oh, so you
Dragon
can
Age
upload
Inquisition.
your Xbox 360 saves and
Yes.
then import them to the Xbox One version. That's awesome.
Yes.
I think
So
that's
Dragon
great.
Age Keep is effectively it's like when Dragon Age Origins came out, BioWare released this thing called social.bioware.com where um, significant things you did in Dragon Age came up on the website, and your decisions were stored and are still stored on EA servers. But this social thing, it was like it was using proprietary software. Like they didn't develop it; they just paid for it and rejigged it into Dragon Age, and it was more like an experiment. But this time they've actually gone out and developed their own system, whereby either you can upload your previous saves from 360, PS3, and so on, and basically maintain them all in your EA account or your Origin account. Um, so yeah, you won't need to play well unless you want the extra game score, which in my opinion is cheating. But uh, yeah, you'll be able to obviously upload your 360 gameplay, or if you haven't played Dragon Age Origins, you'll be able to log on to DragonAgeKeep.com and do a visual, a graphic novel sort of thing, which takes you through the major decisions in the game, which will dramatically affect the way Inquisition plays out. Because obviously, like the events of, I mean, without mentioning any spoilers for people who haven't played Dragon Age 2, and I highly recommend if you're interested in Inquisition, even if you don't enjoy Dragon Age 2's gameplay, I would force yourself to experience the story or watch it on YouTube or something, because Dragon Age Inquisition follows on directly from Dragon Age 2 and the the really important events that happen at the end. And depending on your decisions, it's going to affect the Inquisition. And obviously, like in Dragon Age Origins, you know, you, the way you can affect the story in Origins is really, really dramatic. Like, the king of Ferelden or queen can be like someone completely different,
Yeah, yeah.
depending on how you play the game. People's lives completely change. Um, like, for example, I've got two saves in Dragon Age. One where I play a dick, one where I play a nice guy. And it's like I was in Dragon Age 2, and someone I'd been a dick to in Dragon Age Origins was like now a drunk, depressed, destitute in a bar. Like, and if you're nice to him in Dragon Age Origins, he ends up becoming the king. So
Oh, okay.
so it's like it shows you like and there's also like even like little side quests that you do. They might get mentioned. The expansion to Dragon Age Origins, even that had an effect on Dragon Age 2 for me. And it's that experience that BioWare offers that no other developer offers. That make BioWare for me the king of role-playing games.
Oh, I agree. Like I didn't even wasn't even into RPGs until I played. I think KOTOR was one that really just kind of and I know that a lot of people were like, oh, but Final Fantasy and this and that. For me, I wasn't really into those type of role-playing games. It wasn't until BioWare role-playing games that I really got into them. But moving on real quick. Now, how was the because Dragon Age sounds awesome, but I wanted to talk a little bit about The Witcher as well.
Yeah.
Now, how does that look? And I know that was probably running on Xbox One hardware as well, right?
I'm trying to think now. Actually, I think they showed The Witcher. It was running. They were running the Xbox One version on PC because they were controlling it with a 360 controller.
Okay.
I'm really not sure about that. It might have just been the PC version they were showing. I didn't really look. I didn't really look to see what version was running because, frankly, I wasn't that impressed with the graphics. But I think that's just because I expected them to be good anyway.
Yeah.
There was a high level of obviously an incredible level of detail in the world. I mean, what I saw at the press event has now been released to the public, and they showed like one of the major cities in the game, and just like all the different NPCs have their own sort of daily routine, similar to GTA, I suppose. And they're all chattering away and running around and working, fishing, and it just feels like a living, breathing world. But I kind of expect that of CD Projekt Red, because The Witcher 2 was just so incredible on that level as well. But I tell you what, Quantum Break blew me away because of how smooth it looked. Like the level of anti-aliasing is probably like not what I've seen on console yet.
Yeah.
But The Witcher, there were jaggies. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not sure what version it was. It could have been Xbox One or PC, but again, I'm not that into graphics. I'd rather have the detail and the immersion over multi-sampling any day. But yeah, obviously it was still very impressive. Animations were gorgeous, and
yeah. Well, I mean, the game's not coming out till like February. So,
yeah, they're still working on it. They're still working on it.
That's one of the things that at least they're showing something at this point. Like Doom wasn't shown because they were worried about people nitpicking over it at such an early stage. And even when you see some of the Halo 2 anniversary stuff, it says work in progress because people like to nitpick things.
People bitch,
yeah, man, it's it's crazy, man. I absolutely hate it. Like this generation so far.
Well, I mean, we might talk about the Division in a bit, but when I wrote that up, I criticised the way it looked and ran on Xbox One, but I did say, it's got a long way to go in terms of development before it's released to the public.
What's that?
And it's the same for The Witcher.
Oh, the Division.
Yeah.
Like people were asking about that on Twitter. They said because the Sunset Overdrive producer said he saw that running on Xbox One, booted up right from the dash, and that it looked really good. And you're saying that you saw it running on Xbox One and it wasn't looking that great.
No, well, it looked really good. It didn't run very well. I don't know if other websites are just buttering it up. I mean, we're digressing again a bit. I mean, just to close off The Witcher. I mean, go and watch the most recent gameplay videos on CD Projekt Red's YouTube for what I saw, but they didn't really show that much that we hadn't seen already, to be honest. But again, The Witcher is it's another must-buy for me.
Yeah, I have that. I have it pre-ordered too, so it's good because I was kind of happy, that they delayed it because there was a little bit too much coming out around this holiday season for me.
Yeah, I
agree. So I was kind of happy, get the game running well. I was I was happy with the, actually I was happy with about the month-long delay on Dragon Age Inquisition because October is a busy month for me as well because
you'll have a lot of time to play Destiny as well.
Yeah, exactly. Like Destiny is coming out, and then I know you probably won't, but Forza Horizon 2 comes out in September as well at the end, and then in October is Sunset Overdrive. I'm not sure if you're into that game, but that game to me just looks really fun.
Yeah. We
Did
can
you
talk
get to
about
see
Sunset.
anything? Did you get to see
Um,
anything with
I
Sunset Overdrive?
I actually played it and spoke to the
Oh,
people quite a Sunset Overdrive.
how was it?
Um, well, do you want to talk about that? Or do you want to talk about the Division first?
Uh, well, okay. The Division is kind of a downer. What was your initial thoughts of Sunset Overdrive?
Right. Sunset Overdrive. First of all, I'm very grumpy, cynical, angry British person, and we thrive on sarcasm and being depressed, I think, in this country. So when Sunset Overdrive was initially announced, I scoffed and thought, "Oh, that looks terrible." I hate Saints Row and how goofy it is. I don't like Borderlands and how goofy it is. So when I first heard about Sunset Overdrive, um, I was not even vaguely
You
hyped
weren't
for it.
impressed, yeah.
No, I was not impressed. When we first saw the gameplay, I thought, oh, okay, it's a video game. But again, it didn't appeal to me. But I thought, okay, it looks like it's going to be a good video game for people who like that happy, colourful sort of thing.
Yeah.
Um, but again, I still wasn't impressed. But um, at the Xbox briefing after party, I got to see new gameplay, which I don't think has been released to the public yet. Um, and also go hands-on with the roller coaster demo from E3. And I was pleasantly surprised that it actually was incredibly fun. And it made me feel guilty for being such a miserable bastard. Um,
You British bastard.
yeah. So the first of all, the demo I saw, they were showing off. I think the emphasis in this demo was the variety in how the questing systems will work. It's not just like, I mean, I'm not a big fan of open world games in general because a lot of them tend to just boil down to go here, kill X amount of mobs, and then go to the next place, kill X amount of mobs, blah blah blah. But Sunset Overdrive gives you these wacky, crazy objectives. Um, just some completely ridiculous, wild, and drug-induced ideas about what
Yeah, yeah.
gamers should do. So this one quest that I can recall. So I was very tired when I played it as well. I should emphasize. Um, Hang on a sec, 1 minute.
Are you answering your Windows phone? Anyway, for you, those of you that are just
Sorry
joining
about that.
in, no, that's okay. To anybody that's just joining in, this is Jez from XboxMad.net, and he was at Gamescom 2014. Got to see a lot of the demos behind closed doors and stuff that the public still hasn't seen. So he's given us some insight on some things that we might have missed. And right now he's talking about Sunset Overdrive. He wasn't a fan of it at the reveal, but then he actually got to play the demo, and he was actually enjoying it. So go ahead.
Yeah. So where was I? They were emphasizing how the quests are really varied and the objectives you have to do, and um, that it's not all just go here, kill X amount of monsters, defend this thing, and then progress. This one quest that I remember was you had to forge a nuclear sword. A nuclear sword, it was called, which sounds awesome in of itself. But the game had you like running around collecting parts for it, all these sorts of really dangerous reagents to create this sword, and then all the time while being chased by just incredibly creative monsters. We've seen quite a lot of them already. They showed off some new ones, some flying type monsters, OD'd mutants, and some other giant hulking monsters with different machines grafted onto their bodies and stuff, and it all culminated, and all this chaos just going on, grinding on these huge, like, I think it was in like a nuclear power plant, and you're
Yeah.
grinding off a rail up one of those big nuclear power plant water cooler towers, and then at the end you have to forge the sword, and you bounce up and down on this like flaming pit and forge this nuclear sword, all whilst blowing up tons of enemies all around you. It was just, it's hard to describe because there was so much chaos and, you know, just things happening everywhere that it was difficult to keep track. And also the developer was talking at the same time, and it was just like my senses cannot process this much input at once. You know,
Yeah.
my brain was taxed to capacity. But it was incredible. And
So have you changed your thoughts? Are you gonna get the game now?
luckily, I don't have to get the game because my brother is a big fan of those sorts of games. So he's going to buy it for his Xbox, and I'll probably steal it
Oh,
once he's
gotcha.
done with it.
Yeah, that's a good deal there. I have a
Um,
brother too that we like. I remember last generation with the 360. We both had 360s, but I like buy every damn game, and so he would just come in. Here you go. I'm gonna borrow this game. All right. Then I get him
yeah,
like 5 months later or whatever. So
yeah.
yeah, I can understand that. But that's great. Now, how did it run? Because I remember at E3. Digital Foundry again was like, oh, it looks like the frame rate dips to 27.5 frames per second at this particular part. You know what I mean?
Um,
Did it
it
seem like
was
it had a steady frame?
smooth as butter. It was
Okay.
smooth as butter. There was no frame rate dips that I saw. Again, that's another game that looked very smooth on the anti-alias in front, but it does have more simplistic textures compared to more games that go for a more realistic style. But it was really smooth and really gorgeous, crisp
Yeah.
as anything. Um, I think the thing that obviously really stood out was the art direction. Obviously, that they hired a high-profile London graphic design studio to consult on the art style.
Yeah, I love the art
So
style. Like a lot of people, like how us as Xbox fans, maybe. Well, you're not really a Halo fan, but I am. We were chastised for Bungie and Halo for years by the PlayStation community. Oh, Bungie sucks, Halo sucks. Now Destiny is coming out multi-platform. They can't wait to play that game. Bungie's the greatest studio in the world, and
uh,
you know what I'm saying. Whereas, and Bungie, they make arguably the biggest exclusive, which is Halo. I mean, maybe outside of Mario or something, but so I always thought that was kind of funny. But then, like on the other spectrum, Insomniac has only done like PlayStation stuff for the most part, and people are like, yeah, but I bet you guys were always hating on Ratchet and Clank and all this stuff, or which I never hated on any of that stuff personally. You know what I mean? I liked it. And I liked the Resistance games. Those are some of the best games on the PlayStation 3. So it wasn't that same type of situation. So I'm excited because I know these guys are good developers, and I'm happy that they're going to make a game, not only a game, but it looks like a really fun game, and it's going to be taking advantage of, multiplayer, using the cloud and things like that to go seamless
yeah,
multiplayer and like the living kind of world that they've created and stuff. Like you hop in the phone booth and boom, then you're in the multiplayer. I like that. To me, that's like the next generation thing. I'm like looking forward to the day when you don't have to worry about peer-to-peer
yeah.
connections anymore.
One of
I'm
the
excited for that.
one of the cloud aspects that haven't really talked about that much, but one of the aspects with regards to the cloud is the idea of these streaming game updates. So
Yeah.
like they'll update the game without you realizing it. They
That's
could,
what happens on Killer Instinct, actually.
yeah, but not just balance tuning. Though they might one day a developer might just sit at his desk and decide, I'm gonna add a new monster to Sunset Overdrive based on the latest Reddit meme, and it might appear in the game. They might just add a side quest that has you collect random objects that are to do with some pop culture event. Um, one very, I mean, as a Windows Phone fan, one very cool thing is that I saw there was a side quest to collect Windows phones, which sort of shows the level they've gone to with the involvement with Microsoft.
Yeah. I
The
mean, that Microsoft
in-game
funded that
phone,
game.
yeah, the in-game phone is a Lumia 930 as well, I believe, which is really funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just cool. There's a lot of potential even after launch where they'll just randomly decide to stick random things into the game on the fly without you realizing it.
Yeah, like the living world, thanks to
The
the cloud.
living
Like it gets a bad reputation. People are like the cloud. They don't understand what it is. Like some people think it's just servers or just this or just that.
Yeah,
And it is something that maybe isn't 100% applicable right now, like for some stuff. But you can definitely do stuff like what you're talking about, like the living world, put stuff directly into there without having people to download things, and I think that's
yeah,
great features, and that's next gen to me. Like I like that
yeah.
aspect a lot. So you got your mind turned around on Sunset Overdrive, and now you're a fan, and you're gonna steal the game from your brother when it comes out. And now, what about the Division? Because I got people tweeting me about this. They're like, ask them about the Division because developers are saying that it ran great. You know what I'm saying? And you're saying that it looks good, but it was having issues running on the Xbox One.
It did. I mean, I love the Xbox One, but I'm not gonna lie, it did have some really bad issues running on the Xbox One. Um, but what it reminded me of the whole Watch Dogs downgrade debacle thing, where I'm guessing they figured the level of detail they're pushing into the game was to the detriment of the frame rate and uh, screen tearing and that sort of thing. It ran, it was playable, but I can't see Ubisoft wanting to ship it in that state. I can't. I mean, they've still got when's the launch window next
We
year?
don't even know. It's just
Um,
sometime next year. They haven't.
Obviously there's still a lot of development to go in on it. Um, it's hard to say whether they're using the updated SDK with the Kinect reserve. They might lower the resolution to alleviate some of these issues. I don't know. Maybe 1080p will be less of a PR buzzword next year when people fucking grow up.
Yeah.
But it did run quite poorly. It was. I mean, for a game that was hitting retail, I would think that it was poor. Thief, for example, had screen tearing quite bad in some places, um, but this was like noticeably bad screen tearing. Um,
Yeah.
but on the plus side, that was mainly when he was outdoors, and the draw distance was incredibly huge. I can see them toning that down to improve that. When he was inside enclosed spaces, it wasn't so bad. Um, there wasn't any frame rate drops there. So it's a work in progress. They'll do things like they'll lower the draw distance to reduce screen tearing, that sort of thing. It's all
Yeah,
optimization.
they can like be syncing it and all that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, exactly. There's tons of stuff they can do, but I'm not gonna lie and say that it ran perfectly because it didn't.
Yeah, but you got
However,
potentially a year or longer, maybe a year
exactly,
and a half before this
exactly,
game
exactly,
launches. So,
exactly. But I
yeah,
can
I
only
think.
I can only call on what I saw, and
Oh no, I'm like I would never want you like a lot of people misunderstand when my channel and maybe what you do. I like to keep things real, you know what I'm saying? But because there's such a slant in a lot of the media outlets, I do
yeah,
accentuate the positive with Microsoft and I do bring out the negative in Sony because the big sites won't do that, you know what I mean? And even like oh, you're gonna go listen to a pro Xbox podcast, so you go to IGN and you go podcast unlocked, right? But no, those guys seem to hate the Xbox One. You know what I mean? Like I
I
don't
don't listen.
understand that. It's like you can't even watch that stuff, and then you go watch like the PlayStation podcast, the Beyond one on IGN or whatever, and those guys genuinely like it. They only buy Xbox or they only buy PlayStation 4s. You know what I'm saying? It's like a totally different situation, and I don't understand it. I don't understand how
It's a
they
negative
just
negative
can
headline gets
continuously attack
clicks.
Microsoft over stuff like resolution.
Yeah. It
Hell,
it
where were
goes
these negative
beyond
headlines
Xbox.
last
I
generation
mean,
is
you
what
got
I
the
want to
big
know.
tech sites like, yeah, you got big tech sites like The Verge and Engadget and Gizmodo or whatever. They'll pick up on any negative Windows headline because they're all Mac users, and they want to erode. They want more people on Mac, and they'll talk up Android and that sort of thing. This Microsoft has a legacy of hatred for
Yeah.
for the way they behaved in the 90s. They were
Yeah,
very.
like that's well documented. What it's like. Did you see? I saw this article, and it was on a pro PlayStation site, and it was this guy that was basically calling out the double standard that the PlayStation fans have about, basically get over the stuff. If PlayStation owners and fans held on the grudges as long as they seem to with Microsoft, then nobody would be buying the PlayStation 4 because everybody supposedly hated the PS3 when that launched. And Sony, in my opinion, really messed up that launch with like telling people to get another job to buy one, and you know what I mean. And you're looking at 7-8 years ago, and it's a $600 console, and they made all these promises that never came true. So if you really, they took away feature after feature, backwards compatibility, OS, you know what I'm saying? Like if you were going to hold grudges, you would hold grudges with that. They had like online passes for their first-party games up until The Last of Us on the PS3, and nobody seemed to notice, you know what I mean, or didn't care.
Well, it's hard to say. I mean, there's toxic fanboys on both sides of the
Oh,
fence.
absolutely, absolutely.
Um, and you've got to presume that a lot of the people who would have been toxic on 360 probably went along with the crowd and jumped over to PS4 this generation. There's just a crowd of toxic gamers that jump wherever things are. They jump wherever is the prevailing opinion at the time. I'm getting really tired now. Can you tell? I'm slurring my words.
Yeah, it's fine. I mean, we're not going to go much longer because it's already almost an hour and a half.
I
Now,
do want to talk some positives about the division because
okay.
I don't want to leave it all negative because it wasn't all negative. Like I say, the detail in the world was incredible and next gen. Obviously, the frame rate suffered because of that, maybe, but the emphasis on demo was not on the graphics, and they did say, this is work in progress code, alpha code, blah blah blah. So you've got to expect there's going to be work to do on that. But the emphasis in their demo, which I had to sign an NDA on, by the way, which is now expired, I hope, because they've got my address. The Ubisoft hitmen come to my house. I don't know.
Yeah, Ubisoft are really sticklers with that. I tell you what, man, I was like, I was in the Watch Dogs closed beta, right, on Xbox One, and like they were like that NDA seemed like it would never expire, So it's like, wow, those people are really, really sticklers on not leaking stuff out, So like, I'm very
I can
careful
understand them
about that.
being like not wanting this sort of information to go out because there will be people like me who might mention the screen tearing thing and the frame rate drops, but that wasn't the emphasis of the demo they were trying to get across. The emphasis of the demo was tablet synchronicity. They showed off the Division app running on a Surface 2 tablet, not a Surface Pro, a Surface 2 tablet, which
Yeah.
is, it's not an Intel-based graphics chip.
Yeah, it's like the entry level Surface, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they showed off more of the drone gameplay, like from people playing on tablet, and it was true. That was truly next gen. Seeing the way that ran, and I think this could shed a bit of light on why they're partnering closely with Microsoft, because I've got a feeling that it might be using Windows Azure to run, because let's face it, Watch Dogs online capabilities was garbage. And
That was
I'm not
garbage
sure if you
pretty much from the start. Like when we were testing that, like you had trouble on the beta test getting into rooms and stuff. Like it was well documented, and it's like one of the things I don't understand about the crew. Like how can they not be using Azure unless it's them not trying to give an edge to Microsoft's version of that game? You understand what I'm saying? Like,
But that's why it's so intriguing. I mean, at the end of the day, Windows Azure isn't exclusive to any platform. It is a service that any company can buy. Sony could buy Windows Azure, and to be honest, I'm sure they do they do run some Windows Azure services, simply because it's the second biggest cloud service provider behind Amazon Web Service, and they're projected to overtake Amazon Web Services very soon. So it is the best cloud platform in the world. It's just a fact. So I'd expect that there is some sort of deal for dedicated servers for the Division for this tablet gameplay, because they were talking up how synchronized it was, and they were showing the guy running it live on a Surface 2 tablet, and it wasn't plugged in with the Ethernet adapter. It was running off the hotel's wireless, and it was still. You got to presume that. I mean, yeah, it could have been that the demo unit was networked directly to the Surface tablet without passing out to the wider internet, but I somehow doubt it. But again, they were showing the guy was like tapping around on the Surface tablet, and it was showing how the drone moves in the Division, and it was perfectly synchronized. There was no lag. And they were showing how that the Division app for touch devices is a game in its own right, not just a gimmick like Commander Mode in Battlefield 4, which is cool, but it is a bit of a gimmick. All you do is get a map that you can tap on, but this is you control a drone in a 3D world, which is a lower resolution version of the actual Division game world. Which is one of the capabilities of the Snowdrop engine, which they mentioned a lot. Snowdrop engine.
Yeah, like I've seen that. The Xbox One version of that is supposed to be the lead platform. Whenever you see them talking up the Division, they're using the Xbox One controllers, and they're working closely with Microsoft on that. So
that's why I wondered if the synchronicity is something to do with Windows. They're using Windows Azure to power the Division app, which it ran perfectly, and the guy was the controller player was moving forward, pressing forward, shooting enemies and stuff.
Yeah.
And the tablet player was flying above, dropping tear gas, shooting enemies. And it looked like a fun game in its own right, not just a gimmick, which was awesome. And also,
yeah, I mean, it sounds pretty good. I mean, look, this is so early in development, you know what I'm saying? Like, people have a tendency to overreact at early stages of development, or like alphas or whatever. They're like, oh my god, this sucks or whatever, you know what I'm saying? But I just wanted to point out a couple things real quick. Sony rents servers through Rackspace. They don't actually own any to own your servers is a completely different situation than renting them, because you're not allowed to do the server-side computations on a rented server. What Microsoft does is they will offer the servers for free to developers by what their own word has said that. So I can't imagine them saying, hey, here's some servers for Sony too, you know what I mean? So I think that could be a bit of a hold-up with Ubisoft as far as maybe using that, you know what I'm saying? Like, it is an online-only game, so obviously they're going to have to come up with something for Sony to do. So
what it will be is they're probably offering subsidized. They're probably offering free servers for the Xbox version and subsidized Windows Azure servers for the Sony version. There's no reason that Microsoft would prevent them from having top-notch server access for the PlayStation version. I mean, Windows Azure, it's a different subsidiary for one thing. So the Xbox team would have no say over whether they sold services to Sony or not. They'd have to go through Satya Nadella, and he wants to grow the business, so he's not going to deny Sony.
Yeah, I'm not saying that he would. I'm just saying from what I've read is that Sony has a deal with Rackspace for servers and things like that. So I'm not sure, like for the few that they do use or whatever, they use a lot of quote unquote server hubs, which is just a server that picks a good host. Like apparently, like Killzone on the PS4 does that, and a lot of their games in the past have done that. But obviously, it's like Blu-ray. Sony's on the board that help. One of the like 8 or 9 different companies that help create Blu-ray, and so people were like, why don't they just block Microsoft from using that? And the simple answer is because they want to make money. You know what I mean? It's
Exactly.
like
Sony and
that's what it's all
Microsoft
about.
partner on loads of different things. I mean, Sony built Windows 8 laptops up until very recently. There's still rumours of Sony bringing out a Windows Phone as well, which I'd love to see because the Xperia phones are actually really quite nice. It's just a shame they're running Android. I would totally buy a Sony Xperia running Windows Phone because I think they're quite nice. But Sony and
They
Microsoft partner on
canceled
all sorts of.
the Xperia Play ones. Yeah, I already know that. Like even the Vios used to run Windows and things like that. So that doesn't really come as a shock to me. But just lastly, I want to wrap up real quick because it's like going on an hour and a half. Like we all got the buzz from the Rise of the Tomb Raider announcement. What was it like in person? The buzz, because they say there was like over 300,000 people went there. Was that a big deal at the
I
actual
wasn't there.
Gamescom site?
I wasn't there.
Oh no.
The briefing was the day before Gamescom opened, and I had no idea
Okay.
Microsoft were doing a briefing until after I booked the flights, and I booked the flight during the briefing, which is why Graham Boyd invited me to the after party instead because I couldn't attend the main thing, um, which is really really nice of him. So I actually found out about Rise of the Tomb Raider when I got
Yeah,
to my
Ethan Fogel,
hotel
like a
and
real cool guy.
flipped open my Surface Pro. Yeah, they're both really cool. They were at the after party. I didn't get to speak to them
Yeah.
sadly, but um, they just ooze passion for Xbox. All those sorts of Microsoft evangelists that
Yeah.
they just genuine passion. It's really inspiring to see that kind of passion. I
Major
mean, from
Nelson comes
any
across as
for
real
anything.
genuine.
Yeah,
Yeah,
is
like a lot of people
they
don't like
just love
Major
it. They
Nelson
just
because of all the memes and stuff. Yeah, but you could just tell that Major Nelson's like a cool guy, you know what I'm saying? Like he likes what he's doing. He likes Xbox.
yeah.
You know, like he got a lot of hate because he was like, I can't just flip a button. People don't understand that he doesn't like you know, he's not like the hardware guy, you know what I mean? He's
No.
like they have a like misrepresentation like Major Nelson is like
Man,
some super high up on
I
the
hate
tech
that
side of things
attitude.
or whatever.
That Angry Joe guy was just so rude and unprofessional when he was interviewing Major Nelson on that. So Major Nelson had the patience of a saint dealing with him being the way he was, and he was just totally riding on the hate train, getting millions of views from negativity.
Oh yeah, I mean that guy gets paid to do that. I try to tell people that. People ask me all the time. They're like, "Yo, have you seen what this Jim Inquisition guy says about the Xbox One?" Or "Have you seen
Oh
what
God,
Angry
I
Joe
haven't.
says?" Or this guy. I'm like, "No, I don't watch these things. You know, these guys, especially Angry Joe, he's not angry. He's doing that because you're gonna get a lot of views from it." And I'm not stupid
Yeah,
enough to fall for that. You know what I mean? I mean, some
no.
people are, and you know, whatever. You know,
That's the
but as
thing.
far as
It's
I'm
like
concerned,
I like
yeah.
with Xbox Mad, I could totally just sensationalize everything. Be like Angry Joe, and Jim Sterling, and sensationalize everything. Whack memes in every other sentence, and ride the hate hype train like they do um, for hits. But I actually worked as a journalist, and I have ethics, and I won't do it.
There's
So
supposed to
I
be
don't care.
there's supposed to be a code of journalism, and a lot of these media sites, big sites, don't do that. Like you guys
Of
don't
course
do any
not.
kind of hit, as far as I'm concerned. Don't do the hit article things. Like you don't do the clickbait. You know, you guys
No.
just tell the stories, and that's how it is. You're not like this resolution is going to end the PS4's reign. You know what I'm saying? Like that would be a
Yeah.
clickbait article. That
I,
might be something I would do because I'm a dick like that. But you know, but it's like you just
no.
tell the story how it
Thing is,
is.
though, you have to do that on YouTube because you are competing with people like Angry Joe and Jim Sterling and Boogie, whatever. They will
Yeah,
do that. They will ride the negativity. So, you know, you
that's
kind
why
of
I
on
do what
YouTube, you
I
kind of
do
push through.
because look, when I first started doing this, right, I started my YouTube channel off just doing some reviews. I like running competitive gaming clan. I'm able to buy a lot of games. Some of the people in there weren't, so they're like, hey, why don't you review some of the games you do? So I was doing reviews for them mostly. You know, I didn't think anything of it. And then when they announced the Xbox One, I was excited for it. I liked it, the idea of it, and so I did a video explaining why I wanted that instead of a PS4. I never got so much hate in my life. I think there's like 400 dislikes on that video, and I was like, I'll be damned if I'm gonna let people on the internet try to tell me that I shouldn't get something that I want, or let some kind of hate. So that's where that kind of started, and then I like hooked up like Next Gen, like found me, and was like, hey, you want to do this podcast? And it kind of grew from there. So this year alone, I've had a lot of success when I started doing other things, and people look to me sometimes for the positive news that you won't get from the big sites about Microsoft. You know what I mean? Like just any of the big
That's
stuff. You
what
know,
I
like,
want to do. I just, even before the Xbox One came out, I was a big Microsoft fan. I mean, my Twitter handle is MSFTY, and
yeah.
and I wanted to make a Windows Phone blog for a while because Windows Phone gets even more hate than Xbox One. So I wanted a place where I wanted to make a place where fans of the ecosystem, the Microsoft ecosystem, because it is an ecosystem, could enjoy and just be away from the trolls. We ban trolls. We don't. I mean, I could let the trolls through because trolls generate hits. People
Yeah.
argue with the trolls. They'll come back to the comments thread to argue with the trolls. But I don't want that on my site, so I just ban them. I just
Yeah,
ban the
I do the
trolls.
same thing. Like people are like, I hear you ban people like if they don't agree with you, right? And I'm like, no, that's not true. I just ban trolls if
Right.
they're gonna sit there and like attack other people in the comments or whatever. Then yeah, I'm gonna ban them. If they
Yeah.
spam up the
We
comment section, I'm
we
gonna ban them.
we get Sony fans. We get Sony fans who come to uh, Xbox Mad who have a point to make, and they do it. They do make a point, and they do it maturely, and we're happy to discuss that with them. And if we can change their opinion or inform them better, then we can. But there are some people who just come in and go LOL, blah blah blah, swearing at people or whatever, and that's a troll. Someone who disagrees with you is not a troll.
Oh
We
yeah,
don't,
absolutely. Like you can agree with me all day or disagree with me. It doesn't really matter to me. But just kind of be at least somewhat a little bit respectful about it because we're all different or have different opinions on certain things. Like,
at
look,
the end of
you
the day,
don't like Halo Gears, and people might like say, hey, so he's not a real Microsoft fan. You know what I'm saying? But we all have
yeah,
different opinions, you know.
yeah.
So
At the end of the day, everyone's adults.
let me
So,
ask you
and
something
it's
real
that's
quick.
the facts.
Do you think that the last few years of the 360 like say from 2010 onwards, were basically beta testing what the Xbox One would be because they introduced the Kinect and like the features for that and Bing and all that stuff. They also started off with the Smart Glass, which so if you guys have an Xbox One and aren't using Smart Glass, you're not getting the most out of your console because it's really amazing. Especially if you have a Windows phone and use it. Wow, like you can control the pins on your Xbox One.
Mm.
There's so much you could do. Like there's no screenshot
You can
option on the
actually do that
Xbox
on
One
other
yet.
phones as well.
Oh well, yeah. I mean,
They've
yeah,
become platform agnostic. Microsoft have, which is, it's a far cry from the '90s Microsoft. But the iOS version, iOS and Android versions of Smart Glass do allow you to do all those things as well. Um, but yeah, I mean, the whole tiles thing, the whole Metro thing, it debuted on Zune, I believe. But
Zune.
you know,
I had
it
one.
it was yeah. Did you really? It wasn't even released in Europe. I didn't even know what Zune was until I got a Windows Phone, and people were talking about, oh, I wish Xbox Music was more like Zune. I was like, what the fuck is Zune? No, it wasn't even released in Europe. But yeah, the 360 is basically the first place where we got this tiles interface before even Windows 8 had it. And I did read the history of that design. I can't really remember it, to be frank. But the both the 360 and the PS3 developed into entertainment centers, and I talked about it before that it's all about Apple and Google.
Yeah,
It's all about stopping Apple because Apple and Google. Apple are attacking Microsoft on the computer screen front. Google have completely destroyed them on the smartphone screen front, and Microsoft will be damned if Google and Apple beat them to the TV screen.
yeah.
So I mean, we're seeing it now. What I predicted a couple of years ago with the universal apps, and we got Windows 9 coming, which will bring even more apps to Xbox One. Because Xbox One shares a code base with Windows. So if you develop an app for Windows 8 or 9, it will share its code base with the Xbox One and Windows Phone.
Yeah,
So
they say it's real easy to like do
yeah,
apps and stuff on it
exactly,
on both. Like just
exactly.
they're interchangeable. Windows, like Surface, all that stuff will
Yeah.
works together and real
And
simple to port.
we're starting to see the fruits of that now because we've got I don't know if you're a Reddit user, but Xbox One is the first TV connected device which will bring a Reddit app to TV screens.
I downloaded the Reddit app and I was actually checking it out. Like it's got some interesting things. You know what? This is the thing that I don't understand. Like I always thought Reddit was big. They hated Xbox One a lot. You know.
Reddit's similar to Twitter, but instead of a hashtag, you have subreddits. So you just search for the Xbox One subreddit, and there'll just be tons of people who love Xbox One. You know,
Yeah.
the Windows Phone subreddit is mostly people bitching about how bad Xbox music is, and then you've got there's a subreddit for every subject. You know, and it'll be moderated by people who love the subject. And
Oh, okay. So yeah, I'm not even up to date on what the hell it was. I'm like I thought they were forums and they're quite ugly forums.
they,
You know what I
they,
mean?
they are. Reddit's hard to use, but once you understand it, that it is, the front page, it gives you a bunch of default topics to subscribe to.
Yeah.
So first thing you do is unsubscribe to all those because they're terrible, full of teenagers just spamming awful memes and that sort of thing. And then you go and look for your own interests. So the first one, everyone downloading RedX for Xbox One should get, is the Xbox One subreddit. Major Nelson posts there.
Yeah, I have
It's
a feeling that he was the one that kind of spearheaded getting that. You know what
yeah,
I mean? And I think that he's actually on the achievements for the Reddit thing on
yeah,
Xbox One. Like
yeah.
it's kind of funny.
Um, it's funny, because there's actually another Reddit app in development for the Xbox One that it comes from Reddit, which is developed for Windows Phone, and
Oh, okay.
it's a universal app. And they said in their own subreddit that they are preparing the code base to shift it onto the Xbox One, and it's a lot more beautiful than the RedX app, I must say.
Yeah.
It's so, and that's the whole point of, to go back to your original question, the 360, the whole 360 thing was seeing how much they could get you to interact with your TV outside of games. So I have my Xbox One switched on all the time, even if I'm not playing games, because I'm either using it for YouTube, I'm using it for Xbox Music, I'm using it for
Yeah, I'm the exact same way. They in
exactly.
fact on one of the yeah on the one of the surveys they ask you, they're like, do you fall asleep with your Xbox One on? And like every night I do. So you know what I mean? It's like every
So,
damn night. So
and
yeah.
I actually read some figures that despite, I mean, I can't really source this, but I sort of remember a few months ago there that they were talking about the average usage of the Xbox One compared to the PS4. It's much higher on the Xbox One because it does all these other things, and that's the whole point of the Xbox One. It's that it's on as much as possible, and Microsoft have control over, you know, your TV experience, whether it's gaming, whether it's apps, whether it's TV, and you know, if you're watching TV and you get a game invite, you won't miss that. So you're always connected to your Xbox One, and
Yeah,
that's the
it
whole
always
point of
feels like
Xbox.
home. Like yeah, I remember on the 360, like I used to tell my brother, he's like, well, you just watch this. I said I wish the 360 had a Blu-ray player because I got to switch over to the PS3 to play Blu-ray. And he's like, well, you could just watch it on Blu-ray because I would still buy stuff on DVD at the time or whatever, or watch Netflix or whatever. And he'd be like, well, why are you doing that on 360? And I'm like, that just feels like home. You're connected all the time. It's like the it's
Exactly.
just something about it. You know what I'm saying? I try to put it into words and it's hard to, but yeah, you kind of summed it up pretty much how I feel about it. And I think it's an awesome kind of thing. I like. I think that it's been a hell of a ride. Like the 360 and now the Xbox One and even the original Xbox. Like when I first had that, aside from it being like a giant ass, like boulder, man, I thought it was awesome for gaming. And I like the fact
Actually,
that the Xbox One has kind of gone back to that old school kind of hardcore gaming machine. Of course, it's going to do all the other stuff too, but I feel like that's like the hardcore gaming machine right now. You know what I mean?
well, they completely lost the PR war when they alienated the loud voices of the hardcore gaming contingency. I mean, I remember it's funny because I'm a techie as well as a gamer, and the way the press covered the Xbox One in the gaming sphere and the tech sphere was hilarious. Like Engadget was saying how the Xbox One was amazing because it did all this stuff and games, but then the gaming press was like, oh my god, it doesn't just do games, it does other things too. So it's funny how perceptions change. People claim that they only want a games machine, but at the end of the day, people do things besides gaming, and the only place to have a full sort of living room PC experience is the Xbox One, and that's what it is. I wrote an article. I mean, people have disagreed with me on this point, but I wrote an article quite a while ago now when Xbox. It was actually like one of the first articles I wrote for Xbox Mad, and I argue that the Xbox One is designed for the post-PC age, where casual PC users, don't need, like, say 10 years ago, everyone had a desktop PC in the house. There was like the family desktop PC. People
Yeah.
don't do that now. They've got iPads which satisfy their computer needs, and then they don't need a PC anymore. They might have a laptop provided for them by work, but they don't sit on the sofa or sit on the PC for hours on end. They just use their phones or they use their tablets. And I think like the Xbox One, it fills that gap that where the family PC would have been before. I think that's the intention for it. Microsoft have invested in a company called Insteon, who make home automation devices, and there's already a Windows 8 and Windows Phone app for it, and you've got to imagine that they're going to bring it to the Xbox One with Kinect support, and it'll do things like Xbox turn the lights off, Xbox turn the thermostat up.
Like control your house, like make it into a
Yes,
smart house, essentially, right? Yeah.
exactly, yeah. So
Because
you've
that's
got
why it has IR blasters and everything. You know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
yeah.
But it does
Like,
it. It does it over the Wi-Fi, I believe. This Insteon thing. Check it out on Insteon.com.
yeah,
Um,
I'll definitely check it out.
it's these things that the Xbox One is. It's designed to be more than just gaming, but because they fucked up that messaging at the start, um, it's gonna have a rough ride to get to that level, but
Thank you very
it
much,
will
Don
get there.
Matrick. Damn
Yeah,
jackass. I
exactly.
hate that guy.
Um, it's difficult, but it's hard to market an all-in-one device because if you market, say for example, they do bring the Insteon platform to the Xbox One, and they do start marketing it as an Insteon hub in your home for home automation devices like light bulbs and thermostats and motion detectors, CCTV cameras, and all that sort of thing, which the Xbox One is perfectly capable for because of the Windows kernel. How do they market that without alienating the gamers? It's like, okay, we're going to market the Xbox One to homeowners and say this is an all-in-one entertainment device. Does your TV, bring your Twitter feed up, lets you tweet by shouting at your TV, lets you control your house, lets you control curtain rails, lighting levels, thermostat, blah blah blah. How
Dude,
do you
people would
market
think that
that?
it was NSA. Yeah, they're gonna be like NSA, NSA. You know what I mean? There was like already so much, and there's so much misinformation. Like today on Twitter, somebody was like, I'm not calling him out because this guy's cool and I'm cool with him on Twitter, but he was like, if you download digital games, you can't play them offline on Xbox One. Just to let you guys know. And I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. I was like, that's not true. You can play offline if you probably didn't have your console set as the home console or whatever, you know what I mean? So it's like, even today, like all this time later, there's still so much misinformation out there about these
Yeah,
types of things, you know what I mean? And it's like,
yeah.
it's unfortunate because it's the
That's exactly it.
perception.
Yeah, exactly. It's perception, and when you've got a device that does do everything and potentially will do even more in the future because of the Windows platform, because of apps, and because there's Visual Studio templates for making Windows Xbox apps that run on Windows 8, 9, and 10 even, because this is going to be a long console cycle. How there are people paid a lot of money to answer the question of how will Microsoft position that in the market, and it's all about beating Apple and Google there, because you've got to presume that Apple and Google are looking into the home automation and taking over your TV screens as well, which they've. Google TV was a complete failure, and Apple TVs, it's quite a niche product, and so the Xbox One is designed to compete with the potential of Google and Apple getting their TV offerings right, and but in doing so, they've alienated the core gamer market by having this sort of not targeted messaging. They were trying to fight too many battles on too many fronts, and rather than sort of wheeling it in slowly and saying, right, it's a games machine, but it also does all this other stuff. But
Yeah, like
it's so hard. It's
because
so hard.
let's face it, Sony, the reason they got so big, if you look at that PlayStation 1, it was a CD player as well, and that was a big feature. People are like, hey, you can play CDs on this, The PlayStation 2, the cheapest DVD player around. I know families that had it that didn't game at all, but it was the cheapest DVD player, so they bought it. So Sony was the ones introducing the more than gaming system. It was multimedia. They were the ones that did it. You know what I'm saying? They
Yeah.
brought that to video games. It was them alone.
But Sony they've just been smarter with their messaging.
Yeah,
They've been
because
way
what
way
they
way smarter with their messaging.
exactly because they come out at their reveal and did games, right? And then at E3, which is actually supposed to be all about games, they get away with talking about apps and media and movies and TV, right? And people don't bat an eyelash about it. You know what I'm saying? Microsoft does a reveal, does some games, mostly they do a lot of TV. I'll admit that. But then E3 comes out and they do 100% games. 2 years in a row, they've done nothing but games at E3. And people don't remember their E3 of 2013. They confuse that with their reveal. I see that happen all the time, and I'm like, no, go back and watch 2013's
Well,
E3. It was
this is the central failing of Microsoft's marketing team, because um, the internet is a vast place. We've got this information overload, so people do just sort of take headlines in passing because they're so overloaded with headlines and information that you you know only like hardcore nerds like myself will sit there and read a whole article on what something is. Some people just frankly don't have time to do that, so they either take someone's word on hearsay, which they've taken on hearsay, or they just read the headline, which is usually clickbait, and
Yeah.
never read the full article, which it's a shame. And I mean, going off topic a bit, I mean, you see it on Facebook where I see people posting articles on Facebook that are from the Onion or something, where it's like a fake news article, like
Yeah,
um,
I've seen
you
someone
know,
post that about the Onion before, thinking it was real, and I'm like, you didn't
exactly.
even bother. You didn't even bother to read that, did you?
Exactly, it happens all the time. People haven't gotten used to the idea that people can present falsehoods as fact on the internet. People
Yeah,
haven't
it's
gotten
like don't
that
believe
into their head.
everything you read on the internet.
Yeah.
Like
And Mike don't
I'm in a lot
understand.
of gaming. I'm in a lot of gaming Facebook groups, and there's people that try to troll if they're PlayStation fans. And they'll like, there was this article, Alien Isolation dev tells us why he favors the PlayStation 4 platform for the game. Right, so you think, oh man, here we go, it's going to be about this or that, and then when you read it, he's like, both games on the Xbox One and PS4 are equal in every way. I actually like the PS4 version a little bit better simply because we've implemented something with the DualShock controller and the light or something like that, right? So that's the reason. But the clickbait And the thing that people are just going to take for that is, like, automatically in your head, you're going to start thinking about he likes it because it's more powerful, or he can get a higher resolution, or whatever. You know what I mean? So people use those clickbait situations, and it's unfortunate. You know, it's tiring, and I'm hoping that, like you said, but by the time next year, and we're already seeing this a lot now. Most games that are 1080p on PS4 or 1080p on Xbox One. I'll be happier when not every game on both platforms are 1080p. Like, you look at Watch Dogs, the game pretty much looks identical on both. I think that The Witcher, I think they've announced that that's not going to be 1080p on either platform.
There's rumors, yeah.
Yeah.
To be honest, I hope they don't make it 1080p just so they can say, look, it doesn't matter.
They've already said that. The Witcher developers said, "Hey, they were like, it's PR from Sony." They came out and said that. They go, "It's working because it's PR for Sony, but it's not necessarily something that's going to affect your gameplay." They said, does it really matter, 720p versus 1080p or what have you? And their tech guys were like, well, depending on the size of the TV, how far back you sit. So basically, it was like just a whole bunch of bullshit that it doesn't really matter. Like, a lot of people with me will be like, oh, this game looks bad or whatever. There's this perception that Xbox One only does 720p games, when in fact it has, I think, 5. I think there's only 5 on there that are that resolution. So there's like it's perception, and I think that even like yesterday they were running with the story.
Again, it's information overload.
1080p. They forced 1080p. Yeah, they forced 1080p on Blizzard for Diablo 3. They said anything less unacceptable. Forcing developers to go 1080p, right? So you see that and you're like, oh my gosh, and then you actually hear what Phil Spencer says, because he tweets it out. He's like, no. He says, we thought they could hit it, but we don't force that on developers. Bottom line is they ship it at the resolution they feel comfortable with. Even their first-party studios aren't forced to hit some kind of magical mark, and I think that is important. I was always annoyed at this whole resolution war. I thought it was based off falsehoods anyway. Because if you look at, if Sony comes out and says, hey, Killzone Shadowfall's online is basically 720p, there's no resolution war to start with. The fact is, when people found out Rise wasn't 1080p or whatever, they thought every Sony game was 1080p. Then you find out it's not, and then you start to say, hey, well, this game still looks good. It's gotten to the point where people won't say a game looks good until they know the resolution, which is just stupid as hell,
Yeah, it's a shame, but it's the latest trend, isn't it? That'll go away, just like Red Ring of Death went away, and
man, I still hear Red Ring of Death.
Nobody remembers
man.
PSN being hacked, and
I remember that. I got about 8 free games off of that because I have like 10 different PSN accounts. I have different ones like all across. Like, I have a Japanese one, a British one, a couple different American ones. And they gave different games to different territories, and so I ended up with like 8 free games off of that hack for a online service that I didn't even use because PSN was just totally trash. It always has been and always will be. Yeah. Anyway, man, this has taken up about 2 hours, man. I want to thank you for coming out though, and for talking about the Gamescom stuff, man. It's been really enlightening.
I'm always happy to talk about Xbox for several hours at a time. My friends get fed up of me talking about it all the time.
Hey, don't worry about it, man. I'll probably have you back, man, if that's all right, man. I just I know like there's like a 5-hour time difference, so, and I'm gonna go grab some food and stuff. But anyway, man, I want to thank you for coming out. You guys go check out his site. It's a big site. It's like I think it's better than like IGN. If you're an Xbox or a Windows Phone fan or something along those lines, check out xboxmad.net. They got really great stories, and they tell it like it is, man. But it's a good place to get some positive Xbox news too. So make sure you guys check that out. Thanks for coming on the show, man. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, bro.
No problem.
I was trying to be cool and American there.